my channel. So today's video I'm going to be talking about the ACT and some tips and tricks that maybe can help you or someone else watching this video. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it. The first thing I want to talk about is what is the ACT. So it's a test that mostly juniors and seniors take to get into college, and it measures how well you'll do in college really. But it's made up of 4 sections: English, math, reading, and science. And each section you're allotted a certain amount of time to do X amount of questions. So for English it's 75 questions in 45 minutes. And there's math, 60 questions in 60 minutes, and reading for 40 questions in 35 minutes, and science is also 40 questions in 35 minutes. You'll come in at 8, and if you're not taking the writing, you usually leave at about 12:15-ish. So I think what's important to doing well on this test is knowing the test. So you should go online and look at practice tests, because it's really gonna help you when you get to the real test, because you'll be more prepared. If you don't have time, I really recommend that you take the full test for all the minutes and everything. But if you don't have time to do that, what's also helpful is if you answer about 2 to 3 questions in each section and you time yourself to see how fast you can do it. Because of the time restraints, it should take you 30 to 60 seconds depending on which section you're doing to answer a question. And if it takes you more than that, you need to pick it up a little bit, because time is a really important factor on this test. That's how it gets a lot of students. They struggle with time. But so if you can really make sure you're on top of your stuff and you're good with time, that's really going to benefit you. And also, when you take these practice tests, you need to be sure that you're looking over the answers. You just don't want to take the test, see what you got wrong, grade it and all that. What's important is you know what you're missing, because if you don't go over what you're missing, you're going to miss it again and again and again, and that's not going to help anybody. So you want to make sure that you're learning from your mistakes and making sure you understand what you missed. So to break it down, the English section, I'll start with that because that's going to be the first test you take. You're going to take English, math, then you're going to have a break where you can use the restroom, eat your snacks, and then you'll take reading and science. So I'll start with English. My biggest tip for the English section is be concise. Pick the most concise and straightforward answer, because that's how the test is designed, really. Don't pick the answer with a lot of fluff in it and it beats around the bush. Do not choose that one. Also, there are going to be some questions, some answer choices rather, on there, and the answer choices are going to be repetitive. Like it'll say, oh, the author went to the beach to do this because he went to the beach. Don't do that. Don't pick the one that repeats itself. You want the most concise, straightforward answer. You also need to be aware of your grammar and your commas, semicolons, and things like that. Oh, and basic stuff that a lot of people mess up. The there, your and your, our, are. That stuff that people just butcher all the time on social media. During the ACT, now is the time to be the grammar police. You want to make sure you have your stuff together. That's how I know I get tripped up on a lot of times with my comma rules. Sometimes I'll place commas where they shouldn't be, so I know I need to work on that. Semicolons, know how to use those, and just all that basic stuff that you learn in English. Pay attention in class, it really helps. And that's one of the easier sections, so I think that's all I have to say about that one. But math, the math section is set up where the first few questions are really easy, but the more you go into the test, the more difficult they get. So questions 1 through 10, that's like adding, subtracting, dividing, fractions and all that. And then 50 through 60, those are going to be your harder questions. I know they were like, when I took it, there was a lot of pre-cal stuff on there towards the end of the test, so you have to be aware of that. Oh, it should be about 60 seconds for each question, so no more than a minute on each question. If it's taking you more than a minute, you need to just go ahead and skip it, and maybe you might have time to come back, or either just guess. I always pick B. And when you're taking the test, a lot of times when it asks you to solve, like solve for X, you can just plug it in from the answer choices. You don't have to really take the time to actually solve it. I always start with C, because C is the middle number. When the answer choices are listed, they're listed from least to greatest. So I always choose C because it's right there in the middle. And if my answer is not right and it says, oh, I need to go lower, so I'll pick either A or B. C was too low and I need to go up somewhere, then I'll pick D. All I can say for that one is practice, 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 and don't forget your calculator at home. On the website act.org, it'll tell you that everything on there can be done without a calculator, but it is a lot easier if you have a calculator. And also knowing your basic multiplication facts and stuff like that. Like that simple stuff, multiplication facts and square roots, when it comes up, if you know it off the top of your head, you really don't have to waste that time plugging it in the calculator because time is really valuable in this test. After math comes your break. And in your break, you get about 10 minutes to use the restroom, have a snack, drink water, but you have to go outside the classroom. You'll be doing this in the hallway, but you'll come right back in and you'll take the reading. And the reading, my biggest tip for that is reading. When you read, you have to read the introduction paragraph and the conclusion paragraph. Those are like the two most important things on the paper because the introduction tells you what it is, what you're about to be reading. Then the conclusion paragraph, it basically restates the introduction paragraph. And the passages are split up into, there are going to be 4 passages, but they're split up into like science, a fiction passage, and 2 others I can't really recall, but they're split up in 4 different genres. And maybe it might help you if you don't like science. Maybe you just need to go ahead and read the fiction passage first and then save the science passage for last, because if you read the fiction, you're probably going to go a little bit faster because that's what you like, versus starting with the science, you're probably going to go a little slower because you don't like it. What's also important is reading the first sentence of the body paragraphs and the last sentence of the body paragraphs, because again, that's going to be an intro of what's going to be talked about and a conclusion of what they talked about, or even a segue into the next body paragraph. But I look at question 1 to see what it's asking me, and then I go back and I do my method of reading the passage, answer it in my head first. What's important for me is I have to answer it in my head first, come up with the idea in my head, look at the answer choices and see which one of those matches what's in my head. And I read on prepscholar.com, but what's helped me is realizing that there's only one correct answer choice when it comes to these things. And I know that's like super obvious, but duh. But when I used to do them, I used to get caught up like, oh, this one sounds right, or this one sounds right too, it could be either one. But now that I just tell myself there's only one correct thing and I have to pick that one, I just tell myself, it's kind of like helps me keep a tunnel vision and staying focused and helping my time. And if a question asks you about line such and such and such, you need to, they recommend that you read 3 lines before and 3 lines after that line, but for me that's too much time. I just read 1 sentence before and 1 sentence after. Moving on to science, that's also another one that I really like. I feel as though I like those and I feel comfortable because of it, because of my science teacher. We always had time tests in her class, and that really helped me get comfortable with being timed and working with time, especially when it came to science materials. But what's really important for the science part is there's so many graphs and visuals and data charts and all that. Just look at the visuals. You don't have to read those intros to tell you what the experiment's about. The visuals will tell you what the experiment's about. Know how to read them. Know your dependent variables, your independent variables, control, because there are a few questions that come up about that. It's not testing you on actual science, it's just really seeing how you interpret the data and all that, which is good. And the answers are usually pretty realistic, and pay attention to detail. When you take the test, if it says student 1, don't go to student 2. Make sure you're at the right data chart and the right tables. Don't get confused on that. And it also helps to annotate. If you circle, what I like to do, because sometimes the questions get a little bit wordy, so I just circle the actual question that says, what is the length, or you know, something like that. And it'll be like, oh, we're looking for y and x and question, what do these have in common, or something like that. So you circle what do these have in common, and you circle your variables x and y. Then I go to the chart, it's like, oh, x does this and y does this, oh, b or whatever. And if it helps, sometimes you can even draw a little picture out on the side. It's like, oh, this chart talks about butterflies, I'm going to draw a purple butterfly. Well, you can't use markers, but like you can imagine it's purple. For overall tips, I've been told that maybe it'll help for you to bubble at the end of taking the test, and then when there's like 5 minutes or so left, go back and bubble it in. To me, that sounds like a recipe for disaster. That is definitely not something I would do, but maybe that might help you. And most importantly, on the way how you prepare, I personally use this book right here. It was good. I did not like the practice test in it. Something about them, they weren't that good to me, but I usually just got my practice tests online. But this book, it is good at explaining the questions. Like, you see how wordy it is. It'll break down the paragraphs, break down the questions. You see in the math section, it shows you, it breaks it down like that. Like I said, it's important to know what you're getting wrong and what you're getting right, so you know what to improve on and what to fix. But this was only about 10% of my ACT studying. The rest of it came from the internet, whether it was YouTube, prepscholar.com, or any other website that I came across. I was online finding the tips. There's so many videos out there. I know SuperTutorTV, I'm subscribed to them. I love them. They're really helpful. They offer a lot of good tips. And there's another one. It's like 30-minute videos, and he's taking the test and he's breaking down every single question, showing you how to do it and what are the common mistakes that people make. And he does that for each section. I'll have to find that channel, and I'll link everything below if I find it, but it will be in the description box, so go ahead and open that, look at it, check it out. What's also important are your supplies. Make sure you have your supplies. Pack those at night. Don't be dumb and pack them in the morning, because you will forget something. And by supplies, I mean bringing a little string bag or a draw bag. This is the bag that I brought, this Tuskegee book bag that I got when I went to their open house, if you watched that vlog. But I can put my little water in here, and I use this to put in my snacks or whatever. But yeah, you should always carry something, and put your admission slip in there. When you take the test, you need your admission slip. And they recommend you bring 2 pencils, but you definitely need a pencil. I would definitely bring 2 in case one breaks or something, but you need those 2 things. Read online on the ACT.org. When you register, they will show you like a checklist, and they'll send you emails and everything. And your calculator can only be used on the math section of that test, and make sure it meets the requirements. And the night before, make sure you get some good rest. Don't try and stress over it. And pack your things the night before. Don't wait till the morning of, because you're gonna forget something, especially if it's your first time and you're really nervous. You're gonna end up forgetting something. Don't be dumb. In the morning of, make sure you eat a good breakfast. You wanna be well energized. You don't want your stomach grumbling either. You have to be there at 8 o'clock at your testing station. I would recommend getting there at like 7:50. But because it's so early, wear something comfortable. I think that's pretty much it. That's all I have to really say. That's all I have to offer for this topic. If you have anything else you want to mention, put it in the comments. If you have any tips that might help somebody else, put them in the comments. If you got any questions, put them in the comments. Maybe somebody else might answer it. I might answer it. But that's pretty much it for this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll see you guys in the next one.